it's a pleasure that you're here. Your topic is poverty is not your choice. You are running this organization for a long time. So why is this topic so important for you?
I have a whole talk I hopefully will be able to give, in which I'll try to explain why the topic is important. And actually, because I give talks a lot in German, normally the translation is poverty is no excuse.
All right.
So that is really what I talk about in the work that I do. I run an organization for children and young people in Kenya.
We are very excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. And guys, please welcome again, Dr. Auma.
Good morning, everybody. I feel a little, oh sorry, you've answered, thank you. I feel a little bit naked here. I'm usually used to having a pulse, so I'm going to try and do my best to still keep you interested. Also, I've been announced as the first act, so I almost feel like I need to dance for you all or sing or something. So, pardon? No. Let's stay serious because I think there's going to be enough of singing and dancing later. I'm the most serious act. And I notice there's a lot of energy in the room, which is great. You seem to love a lot what you do, but I just want to bring you all down a notch or two with regards to what I do and what I also think is necessary to think about in this beautiful city, in this beautiful environment. I'm going to talk about my work with regards to the African continent, because I work in Kenya, in rural Kenya, with children and young people between the ages of 4 to 25. And the work I do is because I'm African, because I'm a woman, and because I'm Kenyan. That means a lot of things to us Africans. It means that we were not, for a very, very long time, the masters of our destiny. We have not defined who we are as a continent, we've not defined who we are as nations, and we do not define who we are as individuals. We're the living presence of a people who have been defined and who have taken on that definition to try to move forward with it. And I tell you guys, we're not doing a very good job of it. Why? Because we have something called development aid on our continent. We are considered third world countries, or if you want to use a better term, developing countries, meaning that we're not yet there. We're only half-baked, okay? And I fight every day against these definitions, this description of us, because it's not true. We're only half-baked and not yet there, and only not yet developed, underdeveloped and third world countries in relation to the West, in relation to the Americas. And that is not who we are. For thousands and thousands of years, the African continent was able to sustain itself. For thousands and thousands of years, African people were able to have an identity that was great. And they knew how to handle their business. We kept the environment clean. The soil was healthy. The air was clean. We could breathe it and we could drink the water. For thousands and thousands of years. And then suddenly, a situation changed, not our own doing. And I'm not complaining here, I'm not accusing anybody. Please don't get me wrong. I'll explain why I'm telling you all this. We decidedly took on a persona that told us that we were less. And this is the persona that governs how we run our continent, how we run our countries. We are less. We are trying to develop to become something else that we are not. We are trying to change the way we live to fit in to something that we are not. And we are failing at it. That is why we have development aid. Because we need to be helped. In German it's called Entwicklungshilfe. Hilfe means helped. And I fight this every day in the work I do because what has it done to us? This identity that we are trying to force ourselves into, this jacket that we're trying to force ourselves into. We are now dependent, a good majority of the continent, and that is the majority that live in the countryside, that are not exposed. And even if we are exposed, we still have at the back of our minds we are less. So we are passive because we've been told we cannot help ourselves. The help comes from outside. We are victims, so we carry a victim mentality which says that, oh, we can't look after ourselves because we are less developed. And with this, we also have a sense of entitlement. Because they did this and that to us, they now owe it to us to fix us. And the worst part of it is that we think we are poor. Poverty is no excuse. We think we are poor. So what I try to do is I try to redefine what poverty means. What is poverty? Does it mean I'm poor because I live in a hut, have no running water, no electricity? That's what I was told. That's why the majority of the people in the countrysides of Africa are called poor. That's why if you don't go to the city and make it and succeed, it means you failed. But people in the north of Europe, in the Nordic countries, people go on very expensive holidays where they have no running water, no electricity, they live in a hut, and they have a pit toilet. So why is it poor in Africa and not poor in the Western countries? Why do we talk of when we're talking to the African countries and we're trying to negotiate situations, except especially yourselves who work in the for-profit industry, why is it called with China, with all the other countries, we have trade agreements. We're talking in the economic state and what we're going to do here to improve the economic situation of our countries in partnership with each other. And when we talk of the African continent, we talk of aid. We're helping them. We're giving them something for free. No, it's not free, we owe. We're seriously in debt because we keep getting aid. We are being helped. We're not negotiating a situation. We're being helped. So that has to change. That is the work that I do. I work with children and young people to tell them poverty is not an excuse. In fact, you are not poor. You're just in a situation that has defined you as poor. Because you know what? Even in our countries, when you go to the beautiful lodges, everybody's in a thatched hut. Okay, they have electricity and running water, but if they want to, they can also camp. It's just a different way of life. And it's a very valuable, different way of life because it sustained us, I repeat, for thousands and thousands of years. And not only us, it sustained what is so topical at the moment, the continent, our world, this planet that we all want to save. We didn't have to save it those days because it was fine. And I would like to ask the world, look at Africa. Go back beyond what was created when we started interacting with the rest of the world and see what we did right. How we looked after this continent, how we kept it clean, we kept the earth healthy, and we kept the waters drinkable. That is something that people need to start thinking about. Because as I always say, the planet doesn't give a damn, excuse my expression. Mother Earth doesn't really care what's on the planet. It would be ice, it could be water, it could be fire. The planet will continue to exist. It's us humans who are going to die. So stop saving the planet. Stop saving Mother Nature. Stop saving the earth. Save us. And when you save us, you have to do it in collaboration with us. Because guess what, guys? Africa is the last bastion. We are going to feed all of you because we still have healthy land. We still have healthy water. We still have clean air. Regardless of what people say, regardless of the pictures you see of the slums and the pollution and all that, ours is only in the little industrialized pockets of spaces on this continent. Let us save this continent because we're saving it not just for the Africans, it's for all of us. So when we think about all the poor Africans, we need to come in and save them. Africans beware. Because depending on what is brought into the country, we will make exactly the same mistakes. I'm not being revolutionary here. Thank you, moderator, for introducing me as an activist, because now I'm sounding like that. But I'm not really an activist. I'm just talking about the truth and common sense. And that's my work. We need to start teaching our children, and that is the work that my foundation does, Surgical Foundation. We need to start teaching the children that they must take responsibility. That is one of the key things that we do. Responsibility, accountability, participation, and being able to define who you are and not say, oh, I am like this because of him, or because of her, or because of them. It is our problem for us. I'm telling the rest of the world what they'll get out of it and the benefits, but in reality, we need to take care of us. That is the main message of my work with the children. And that's why it's called Poverty is no excuse, and opportunities are unlimited. And you define your future. You are your future. This is very, very important. And with regards to how we do it, because people say, oh, this is very nice, it's a great pep talk, you're a real motivator. How do you actually do it? How is it actually possible to do that? Because we're so ingrained in this way of being. We really think we can't help ourselves. We really think we need help from elsewhere. First of all, we work with the children and tell them, you need to look at your own personality. Who are you? How confident are you as an African in yourself that you actually have a right to demand from the world that they listen to you, that they respect you, and that they include you when it comes to making decisions about who you are and what you do in your life. So one of our strongest pillars of the work I do, because we have 4, is called personality development and character building. Meaning that, who am I and what do I do in my life? You all are really pretty proactive in your program here, and I would have done this exercise and it may even work. Because one of the things we teach the children to do is that they have to recognize something very important that makes it possible for people to take them seriously. I know it's pretty dark, but give me 2 seconds and just look at your neighbor. You may be able to see what I'm saying. Just look at your neighbor in the eye. Look at your neighbor. Don't look at me. Seriously, look at each other. You all look at me still. Just look at your neighbor and see what you see in the eyes of your neighbor. It may be embarrassing, it may be uncomfortable if you don't know them, but don't worry, you'll get to know them by the end of your time. So when you look at your neighbor,
I see a very gentleman.
and because you're too many, okay, I work with kids, so when we want your attention, we say we, and you have to answer wow. So I'm going to say we, and you say wow. Okay? We. Wow. We. Wow. We. Wow. You're not very loud, but it'll work. But that's what we do, and then everybody stops, and then the young person beats a 4-year-old or a 25-year-old, gets all the attention again. So when you looked at your neighbor's eyes, and I won't make it a test, so you'll do it again as I explained to you. Look in your neighbor's eyes again, and you will see a light. You will see a white light. Just look again. And the importance, the importance of that white light is that if anybody knows film and photography, when you have a protagonist or you have somebody that you're showing, if there is no light shining in that person's eye, there's always a light shining into the eyes of the people. Can you imagine why they put a light? This is a rhetorical question you don't have to answer. Yeah. The light is put there because what happens when somebody dies? What do they say? The light's gone out. And what do they do when somebody has died? They close their eyes. So we tell the children, and this is really an African, so I'm struggling, we're figuring out how to do it. Look people in the eye when you talk to them, because when they see the light in your eyes, they know you are alive. And then they can feel your presence and take you seriously. So this is extremely important, because if you don't look at me, and most of our children, and I will put it with us as well as Africans, we're damaged in many ways that by not looking at the other person, by avoiding, by kind of going around, the person doesn't feel your presence, doesn't take you seriously. We need to start looking up straight in the eye and letting people see the light in our eyes, because we are alive, because we are there, and we need to be taken seriously. The other thing that we do is we work with the fire inside our young people. This is the potential. Your potential to do what you want, to be who you want to be, because you need to take advantage of opportunities. And opportunities are really unlimited, even though opportunities are always just restricted and defined as being having an education, going to the Ivy League schools, living in the city, not in the countryside, eventually living in Europe, because you know we have the migration problem. So all these things that are put on us to say this defines who you are and whether you've made it. No, it's not true. We need to change that. We have so much potential on this continent. I never talk. When people start to talk to me, oh, Africa is so overpopulated, and in so many years, I put my hand up and say, talk to the hand, because that is not a problem. That is potential. We have so much opportunity with our young people. Look at what has happened because there are no jobs. How many jobs have we created? We have leapfrogged, and we are right ahead, right in front with the digital age. We are creating jobs. Our young people are going on the internet and creating jobs, creating apps, creating things that are being used internationally. So we have to recognize that. And the thing is, we keep being called startups, which is fine because we've started, and we can stay in that space because it's a little bit comfortable. But really, these are serious organizations, serious companies that are making a difference in the world. May I just mention Mpesa, because it's always mentioned and it's Kenyan, right? Wow. You know? So we need to remember this potential that we have, we need to go back to it. And this is what we teach the young people during our personality development. Education. Education is not just formal education, going to university, not just white-collar job. Vocational trade. Vocational trade is so needed in Europe as well as here. We turn our nose up at it because they say, oh, we don't want to get our hands dirty. We teach the young people, no, you need to get your hands dirty. The land, our land, that is going to feed the world, guys. We need to start farming. So we have programs where the young people also farm. I do actually have photos that I forgot to tell the technician to let roll. There's just a loop so you see the kids that we work with. So if he's ready and he's somewhere and he hears me, he can put that in instead of my image on the screen. And we work also in teaching the families and the young people to use that land, to farm that land. First to feed themselves and then to feed others, because they are not poor. If you have 10 acres of land and you live in a mud hut with no running water, no electricity, you are not poor. You're just differently rich. And then the last thing that we do, which is really, really critical, because, you know, when I started my work, I worked with an international organization, and we'd go into the slums, and we'd do this work, and I call it in the meantime slum tourism. And you feel really great, you're doing a great job. No offense to my colleagues, and you're really doing a great job, but you were in the other photos somewhere. If they could just run, you see the children and the space that I work in. So we go to these slums and you go there and we work there. And I promised myself that when I start working the way I think is right, I am not going to work in the slums. Because if you have people who are disadvantaged or think they're disadvantaged, and you work in a space, if you come down to that level and you're now wearing the Birkenstock, you know these sandals, these healthy sandals, and you walk around in an old tatty or an iron t-shirt and all this stuff, and you look like, you know, you fit in, what those young people and those disadvantaged people are thinking, if he can't make it, how am I going to make it? You know? Don't go down. Let's go up. Let's climb. You know? Let's show that you can go from here and come where I am. Don't make excuses for being smart. Don't make excuses for looking who you are. So I tell our young people who come to work with us, we have some interns, they come usually from Germany, and we had Konstantin, and he was working with young people, and he's a young guy, a student, and he'd be going with our young people, our beneficiaries, to the cafe at the local store, and they would drink soda together, and Konstantin was always paying. So I said, Konstantin, why are you always paying? Do you have any money? No. So why are you paying? You're a student, you struggle, you work to get, do they know this? No. Why then? Well, I come from Germany, and you know in Germany, we have a much better life, I'm so advantaged. Konstantin, you're not. You're a poor student, you have nothing, so stop pretending. Stop giving the wrong impression. Stop giving the impression that and don't excuse yourself for being white. Don't excuse yourself for coming from Germany. You must let people know this exposure, this information, this dialogue is necessary, so our young people know that they cannot get anything for free. Nothing is for free, it's a lie. Development aid is not free. So what we need to do, and I'm really not getting my photos, I don't know what happened. Anyway, they might come. What we need to do is start talking on a level playing field. One has to realize and take seriously this continent and the people from this continent. I get invited to so many events to talk. I get invited on panels, very serious ones, you know. I won't mention names, I have to be careful here because I'm not very PC. You know, where I'm sitting with academicians, and thank God I'm Dr. Auma, so I think I can hold my ground, but some of the topics are not mine. I honestly will admit. And then I ask myself, why have I been invited? And when I ask, very often I'm told, well, you know, we couldn't find anybody. Not in a negative sense, no, they want me still, but you know, next to me, because we're maybe 12 people or whatever, you know, if they want me, it's okay, don't worry. But, you know, it could be good to have another expert, especially in that field. And then I ask myself, and I tell them, I challenge them, I say, you know what, you need to do your homework, because the conversation with experts on the African continent is critical. We have scientists, we have humanists, whatever, the different from the arts, from the humanitarian arts. All these people are on the continent. We've been going to school in this method for years. In fact, when I was going to school, I went to an all-girls school. All my friends are doctors, lawyers, judges, what have you. We are overqualified. That's why half of us don't get jobs, because we are too qualified. So talk with us, include us in the conversation. Take your places, guys. Refuse, you know. When you get invited, don't ask, why is my colleague not invited? Let's start a database where we show how many experts we have, you know? And not just talk about the guys who got rich. Because we talk about our rich guys, I see it all the time on CNN, and I have respect for them, full respect. You know, they work with me, they support my work. But don't just look at us when we already have the money. Look at us because intellectually we are on a par. This is really, really critical. And if we can do that, it'll be a different dialogue. Because you know what? What I always say is that if we don't respect this continent, if we don't include the people of this continent in the dialogue, if we mess up this continent, how are we going to feed ourselves in the future? All of us. Because it is the last bastion. Africa can take almost all the countries into it. And I'm not lying. Go and Google it. Most of the countries fit into this continent. How big is this continent? We don't realize that dimension because we always talk about Africa in a diminutive. In fact, we talk about it as a country. It is not. Africa is not a country.
No, it's a continent.
We need to look after this continent for all of us. For all of us. Because if we don't, and we're getting sicker and sicker, by the way, if we don't, we will have nowhere to turn. And the pharmaceutical companies know that. Because most of the medicine, a lot of it is being grown on the continent. And this is what we do in our work. We actually are trying to preserve that. We're trying to make the young people aware, we're trying to make their families aware, we're trying to study all of that so the young people don't even leave the rural area, because I work in the rural area. They don't even have to leave the rural area to know all of this. So we are bringing the Western world into the rural area with the different technologies that are there, internet, Wi-Fi included, and trying to tell them you have a wealth here that you need to preserve for everybody, not just for yourselves. So even if I sound revolutionary, it is not against, it is for all of us. It is for all of us. So when I talk about development aid, when I criticize development, the trajectory needs to change and we need to start talking about economic value chain. How do you get us into the economic value chain? All of us. Not aid, trade is what we need. I need aid, yes, I won't deny, I'm a non-profit. And there's other organizations that work like me who need it because we need the support, because we facilitate, we enable, and we are not making money with it. Because we are trying to open eyes, we want that light to be seen. And that's why we need that level of support. You know, catastrophes needed, conflicts needed. But for the mainstream, we need to bring our people into the mainstream. Let us stop being victims. Let us stop being dependent. Let us stop being passive. Let us stop being entitled and saying, it's not our fault, they need to look after us because they did this and this to us. And we need to get away from this fear of each other, which is very, very apparent at the moment. Wars, Brexit, etc., etc. Because this fear is going to damage everybody. And the worst fear of all, and I will mention it here, I did say I was not PC before I close because I don't want to take too much time, which I probably have already. The worst thing about the fear is the fear of your own kind. And this is something that I'm hearing about. I don't experience it. I'm privileged to be in a space where I don't have to experience it. But when we fear ourselves, I started off with us saying we don't know ourselves. I'm talking to the Africans here and our own identity. When we start fearing ourselves, if we had anything against the West, if we had anything against white people, again, no offense, then they have won. If that is what they were trying to create. Because fear of self, and I'm going to name it, black on black xenophobia is the worst kind of xenophobia. The very worst. Because you know what? That is what has helped the West grow. That is what has helped America grow. Because they looked after each other. They identified each other as a kind, and realized the strength of that. And if we can't do that, we are damned. We are damned. So South Africa, please, I appeal, deal with it, because you're going to damage yourselves. And you're damaging your children. Because this continent is your mother. We cradle, we look after each other. That is what we should do. And if we start off doing that here, it's going to spread. Because retaliation knows no end. Retaliation knows no end. And let us not even go there. We've gone there already. We need to stop it. We need to stop it. Because if we can't love ourselves, why should anybody else love us?
Yes.
Why? Why should they care? And remember, this continent is not ours, it's for the world. So to the Western world, I say, you know, there's a thing they used to give us fish because we are poor and emaciated and we needed to be looked after. Don't give us fish. Don't even teach us how to fish. Ask us if we eat fish. Then we can start talking. Yeah? And for the Africans, I have something for you guys as well. For the Africans, look at that light in your eyes and look at each other. It's a mirror of yourself. And if you're not loving yourself, meaning those who are like you, then you are doomed. We are doomed on this continent. And then anybody can do what they want with it. Self-hate breeds hate. Yes. And it breeds abuse. We will be abused. This continent will be abused, and we need to look after it. So we need to take it, own it. Own it. So as we say, ask us if we eat fish, we need to ask ourselves, what do we see about ourselves that is important, that they should be talking with us? Because if we can't talk to each other, they're not going to talk to us. They're going to talk over our heads and take care of things as they see right, which is their prerogative, because everybody asks, what's in it for me? A very normal question to be asked. What's in it for me? And that's what we teach our children. And that's what I think we need to ask ourselves. What's in it for me? In all the communication I have, be it in my country, be it with my neighbors' countries, and be it with abroad. Let's not be victims, because just saying that we've been underprivileged, we haven't gotten something, that is no excuse. Poverty, disadvantage is no excuse. It's just a starting point. It's what you do with it that counts. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Great message, guys. Thank you very much. If you can love yourself,